Hey, this is Durbania. I'm Durbin, and I'm gonna read way too much into Man of Steel. Spoilers ahead.
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark. Whoever that man is, he's gonna change the world.
So each new day brings us one day closer to the release of Batman vs. Superman, which makes me pretty excited. So I thought this was a good time to go back and read way too much into Man of Steel. Man of Steel is one of those movies that takes Superman fans and divides them into one of two categories. Those that hated Man of Steel and those that loved Man of Steel. And I happen to fall into the categories of those that loved Man of Steel. But I get why those who didn't like it, didn't like it. I mean, number one, the movie just had a completely darker tone, and Superman is light. I mean, he's light, he's a little corny, he's fun, he's a good guy, Boy Scout. But for lack of a better term, Man of Steel got a little Batman Begins in its reboot. You know, Superman brooding, darker tone, darker world. But here's what I actually ended up liking about Man of Steel being a tad bit darker. Because it takes Superman and it takes him out of the comic book world and it puts him in our real world, where mankind, they're afraid of what they don't understand. And sometimes they even hate what they don't understand. And this is what Jonathan and Martha were trying to tell Clark to protect him and to protect his secret. So here grows up Clark Kent with this heavy burden on his shoulders that if people knew who and what he really was, they'd probably hate him. They'd definitely be afraid of him. So is he gonna be accepted? So this is Clark trying to find his way in this world. And I kind of liked watching that. But here's the other thing that I really, really liked. So here's Clark. He's a bit more brooding. He's got these heavy burdens on his shoulder. For a lot of people, that's just enough to turn them bitter and turn them into a supervillain. But not Kal-El of Krypton. Because we see in that first Man of Steel scene action sequence with the whole oil rig on fire and everything, he couldn't help himself. He had to get over there and he had to save those people. And that's kind of an idea we get built up before he actually becomes Superman. He still has this habit of saving people. And so people start to figure out who he is. These myths start to get built around him. So he goes and gets a new identity and gets away from there. But he can't help it. He's got to save people. So even though he's got these burdens on his shoulders, he's brooding a bit more, and he's got all this stuff going on, it hasn't turned him bitter. It hasn't made him supervillain. In fact, he's still so good in his heart and in his core that he's got to save people, even if he thinks they might be afraid of him. He's got to save them. So I thought that made the light in his heart stand out more when he's set in kind of this darker world. The other thing about Man of Steel that a lot of people didn't like, and I totally get this, he snapped General Zod's neck. Superman doesn't kill. He just doesn't. DC heroes don't really kill. Most of all, Superman does not kill. He's the one who's always trying to find another way. So I can understand the disappointment when, in this first Superman reboot, he snaps Zod's neck. I can get that. But let's rewind the clock just a little bit. Let's go back to Superman 2. In Superman 2, he takes Zod and the two that are with him, and he leads them away from Metropolis. He leads them to the Fortress of Solitude. And in the Fortress of Solitude in Superman 2, there was that chamber that earlier in the movie took away Clark's powers, and then he went and got his powers back. But Zod finds out about this, forces Clark into the chamber so that Clark will lose his powers, but this time Clark inverted the whole darn thing. So now Clark is safe in the chamber, and it's Zod and the two people with him that are going to lose their powers. So once he's made Zod completely helpless, Superman steps out of this chamber. He feigns kneeling before Zod. He takes Zod by the hand and then squeezes it, taking every bone in his hand and grinding it to dust. You know, torturing him. Then he picks him up. Do, 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 do. To the ice wall, and then Zod slides down that into, like, I don't know, this pit of despair where we know he died. So let's just review this real quick. Back in the Superman 2, Superman, you know, made Zod helpless, tortured him a little bit, and then killed him. But it was so hokey, we didn't really realize how utterly dark that was. In Man of Steel, Superman does not want to kill Zod, but he's got him in the chokehold. Zod's got the laser beams coming out of his eyes. He's about to shoot that family over there, and Superman's like, no, don't do this. And Zod's like, if you love these people so much, mourn for them.
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them. Don't do this! Stop!
And Zod was pushing him, okay? He was pushing Clark. So Clark just snapped his neck. He didn't torture Zod, but you saw right there, he tortured himself. He falls to his knees, he's screaming in agony. Granted, the next scene he was A-okay and life was peachy keen, but we're just gonna stick with this scene right now. He falls to his knees and he's in complete and utter agony over what he just did. And Zod was a monster. So in this movie, Superman had agony over what he had to do. It meant saving mankind. But he had agony over taking Zod out. And to me, that definitely separates Superman from that monster. It separates Superman from that darkness. And I'm seeing the light more in his heart that not even to his worst enemy is that something that he wants to do. I bet you we're going to deal with that a little bit in Batman vs. Superman. But overall, one of the reasons that I still stand by Man of Steel, because, you know, it was not a perfect movie. Yeah, there were things they did right, there were things they did wrong. But the reason I still stand by that movie is because Superman comes out as the good guy, the Boy Scout, the character of light. And to me, that is Superman. And that's why Superman is my favorite superhero, because of what he represents to me. To me, Superman is the picture of how my walk should be. Because Superman spends time in the light and the sun. His body, like a battery, absorbs the power from the sun, converts it to power in his body, and then he's able to go into the world and perform these amazing signs and wonders. And he doesn't do it to bring fame to himself, to bring glory to himself. He does it to be a true servant. He's a humble guy, and he's leading by being a servant. And when I see that as a picture of what my life should be, in my life, I need to be spending my time in my relationship with God, my time in the light with the sun, S-O-N. That was the cheesiest thing you've ever said. But anyway, I mean, one of the things that Jesus said was, you can do the things that I do, and greater things you will do. And that comes from spending time with him, spending time in the light. And then to go into the world and do great things for him, not to bring glory and attention to myself, but to be a servant and to lead by being a servant. And to me, Superman is a great picture of that kind of walk.
My father believed that if the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. He was convinced that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
If you saw Man of Steel, what were your thoughts on the movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'd love to hear from you. You can let me know in the comments and subscribe if you liked what you saw. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud or anything else, know that this is the first podcast I've done that's got a video to it, which means you can go to YouTube right now and you can watch this, which I think is pretty cool. And if you're watching this right now on YouTube, you obviously know that, but now you know you could go subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud and other cool places like that as well. So if you like what you heard and you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe, and you can hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Durbin. Thanks for watching.